It keeps getting worse as the fallout from the Vikings' loss to the Steelers in Dublin is the last thing fans want to hear, with never-ending offensive line health issues mounting. And Kevin O'Connell states his frustration with a mismanaged element by the NFL in yesterday's game. We're going to break it down all that in this episode of Vikings Digest. But first, if you're a part of the 84% of viewers who are not yet subscribed to the channel and you want to stay up to date on all things Vikings, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any of the updates as they drop. And with that, let's hop into the first topic of the day, which is O-line health disasters. So you guys were all watching the game yesterday. You guys know that it was not a pretty game for at least the first half and the first three quarters, really. And the fourth quarter, Minnesota kind of really turned it around a bit. But there was a lot of casualties in this game, and the Vikings were already playing without left guard Donovan Jackson, who had surgery last week on his left wrist. In the process, the Steelers sacked the Vikings quarterback Carson Wentz 6 times, hit him a total of 14 times, and pressured him at a rate of 32%. 2 of his passes were batted at the line of scrimmage and intercepted, and he also committed a key intentional grounding penalty under duress to derail the Vikings' final possession. Now, initially watching the game, a lot of people were mounting on Carson Wentz as the reason why the Vikings lost this game. He was not. Those passes, they were batted in the air. He couldn't get them over the line of scrimmage. You could say that. But in the end, he was playing with an absolutely decimated offensive line. He might as well have been playing with the same offensive line that Sam Darnold was playing with in the last 3 games of the season last year, because this was absolutely ugly for him. And with Kevin O'Connell saying, though, as you lose your center and then obviously Brian O'Neill, it has some effect on the execution, but I don't look at it as anything more than next man up. And we've got to consistently do some more simple things early on in the game, just from a standpoint of doing our job. And if you look at the final score, it was a close game on paper, but when you watch the game, Minnesota was playing from behind basically the entire game and kind of caught life really late. It was a really ugly first quarter where they could not get anything going. It was 6 points. It was very, very abysmal to watch, really, where they couldn't move the ball. The defense couldn't stop anything. DK Metcalf absolutely lit it up on an 80-yard touchdown run. That was a really big nail in the coffin for Minnesota. Wasn't the final one, as the defense was able to keep the team in it and offense was able to get things going. Jefferson and Addison each had over 100 yards, so they were airing the ball out pretty well. Running the ball was a little bit difficult. Jordan Mason cost me a lot of fantasy points in that sense, because I thought he was going to run all over that Pittsburgh defense. But that Pittsburgh defense, they were a terrible defense all season. And then they wanted to play like a top 5 defense on Sunday, and they absolutely showed up and showed out and took advantage of a decimated offensive line. And center Ryan Kelly did not play in the second half because of a concussion, his second this season and at least the 5th of his NFL career. And right tackle Brian O'Neill departed with a knee injury. And speaking after the game, Kevin O'Connell said that O'Neill was set to go with an MRI on Sunday night in Dublin, and he did not want to get ahead of the results, but indicated that the team's medical staff was focused on O'Neill's MCL. Right there, that is the last thing you want to hear, is that Brian O'Neill and MCL in the same sentence. Hopefully it's just a sprain and not a tear, because if it's a tear, kiss his season goodbye, and we're going to be having a Swiss cheese offensive line for the entire rest of the season, just without having him alone, and the constant injuries that are mounting and mounting on this offensive line. And Kelly's condition might be more concerning given his history. The Vikings signed him to a 2-year, $18 million free agent contract as part of their effort to stabilize the interior of their offensive line, but he has now suffered concussions in weeks 2 and 4, missed 1 full game in week 3 in Cincinnati, and half of 2 others. And when speaking on that, Coach O'Connell said that we'll totally defer to the doctors and we'll defer to the protocol, and ultimately we're going to want to make sure Ryan is in a good place. And that's not anything I particularly ever want to mess around with. We'll be smart, and at the same time, it's definitely not my lane to weigh in on those things until the medical staff or we get to that place. So Ryan Kelly's health is going to be a major priority for this Minnesota Vikings team, because the main thing that we got to think about here, look at how much money and resources Minnesota put into this offensive line in the offseason. They have Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill there already. They kissed Garrett Bradbury goodbye. They brought in Ryan Kelly, Will Fries. They drafted Donovan Jackson. This was a completely revamped offensive line. Guess how many games these guys have played all together this season? 0 games played for all of these guys together. They have all missed time because of injury. There's been times where maybe 2 of them have played at the same time, maybe 3 of them, but none of them have all played together at the same time. This Vikings offensive line has not looked anything like it has supposed to look because of injuries. So when people look at the struggles of the Minnesota Vikings on offense this year, Yes, JJ McCarthy did not have a great game against the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, Carson Wentz did get rattled against the Pittsburgh Steelers and made some poor decisions with some of those interceptions, but two of them were not his fault as they were getting batted because the offensive line could not block worth a damn. And then you look at week 1 against the Bears, they were getting swallowed up early on, but then they kind of found their way a little bit. But overall, this entire season, we haven't seen any of these guys all healthy on the field at the same time to give this Vikings team the protection that they need in the run game, in the pass game for these quarterbacks, especially with JJ McCarthy is going to be coming back and be the starter after that injury, which is likely going to be the case unless Carson Wentz just throws for 10 touchdown passes over the next 2 games or so. But overall, this is something that if we don't have this by mid-season, watch out, it's probably not going to be a playoff season just on that basis alone. It doesn't matter if you have Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison put up 100 points a game. It doesn't matter if you have Isaiah Rodgers getting picks out there. It won't matter unless they have the offensive line to protect this team, to protect this offense, to protect Carson Wentz, to protect JJ McCarthy, to give blocks for Jordan Mason, to give blocks for Aaron Jones once he's back. And this is a team that, yes, we had all these aspirations. And what was the main thing we said heading into this season? The only thing that can stop the Minnesota Vikings right now is injuries, and of course the history of the Minnesota Vikings as well, but injuries always being the main one, and we have been riddled with them. We didn't have Gink for this game. We didn't have Donovan Jackson. We didn't have Harrison Smith for the first couple of games. We didn't have a lot of pieces. We lost Ryan Kelly again. We lost Brian O'Neill. We've lost so many pieces on this team to start the year that I'm praying to the football gods that by mid-season, this is all just a matter of the past and we can just blaze through the second half of this season and just destroy teams the way that we have been supposed to be doing this entire season. But let us know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below, and what do you guys think will be the prognosis for Brian O'Neill and for Ryan Kelly? How concerned are you for this offensive line? Let us know down in the comments below. That's going to take us into our second topic of the day, which was the play clock problem. So speaking in his press conference yesterday, Kevin O'Connell was saying that he wasn't happy that Wentz didn't have a play clock to look at when Minnesota was trying for a tying drive late in the fourth quarter. Minnesota took a delay game of penalty with 14 seconds left, creating a 4th and 17 from the Vikings 32. Wentz then threw an incomplete pass and the comeback fell short. Speaking on the play clock, Kevin O'Connell was saying that it was a unique thing about coming to play here. Then you find out about 3 minutes before the kickoff that the end zone's game clock and play clock would be turned off for the day. Normally that clock right in front of the quarterback is kind of registering. I've got to get going. It's a precious time loss in a sequence, a critical penalty. But the NFL did put out a statement on this saying that we use the stadium scoreboard above the north end zone to display the game clock and play clock due to an issue with syncing the static stadium clock and the play clock at the end of the field. Players always had the play clock and game clock visible to them at all times. Both clubs were informed of this prior to the game. And that scoreboard, however, is in a corner of the stadium, and Wentz saying that it was weird looking behind me, looking over my shoulder over the side, but he did say that delay of game penalty was ultimately on him because as the quarterback, you still got to get that play out. Aaron Rodgers didn't really have that many issues. He was just bringing it down. But when you look at a lot of the plays that were run on Minnesota side and Pittsburgh side, that play clock was basically at 0 every single snap, where it didn't look like any snap was got off before maybe 5 seconds left in the play clock. So it was clearly an issue for both teams on the sides of the ball, where having that play clock in the corner of the field where it's really only serving the side that's looking at it a purpose, that's really a big kick in the ass and a really big thing to worry about and have to struggle against when you're already facing so many issues mounting up against it. It's not the reason they lost, but it was one of those things that kind of was a small contributing factor to some little things that impacted very big drives for the Vikings. But let us know what you guys think about this. Hopefully this is just something Minnesota can write off, move on to next week and finish it out against a strong defense in Cleveland. It's going to be really in London, but against Cleveland, it's going to be really tough going up against Myles Garrett. Hopefully we can have our way with them like the Detroit Lions did. They did it in the passing and the run game, so hopefully we can do that. But Myles Garrett and that defense is going to be a problem. Hopefully, if they make a quarterback change, Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, it's not next week. It's they just roll with Flacco for one more week so we can abuse the hell out of him, and then they can make their coaching adjustments for the future of their team, and we can just enjoy a 3-2 start heading into the bye. But let us know your guys' thoughts on all this down in the comments below, and stay tuned for the Brian O'Neill update that will be coming on his MRI that we're probably going to get the results of later today or tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. You guys won't want to miss it. Stay tuned to Vikings Digest. Hit that bell icon and subscribe. But for now, I've been your host, Griffin. Take care.